The automatic doors of TechWorld Electronics slid open with a soft whoosh as Harold Martinez stepped inside, his weathered hands gripping a worn leather wallet. The 72-year-old veteran moved slowly, his left leg dragging slightly from shrapnel wounds sustained in Vietnam nearly 5 decades ago. Pinned to his faded denim jacket were 3 small but significant medals, a Purple Heart, a Bronze Star, and a Vietnam Service Medal, each one earned through blood, sacrifice, and unwavering dedication to his country. The store buzzed with the typical chaos of a Saturday afternoon. Families browsed the latest smartphones while teenagers tested gaming headsets. Harold made his way toward the tablet section, his granddaughter's birthday gift carefully researched and saved for over 3 months. At 22, Derek Lawson stood behind the customer service counter, his perfectly styled hair and designer polo shirt marking him as someone who took great pride in his appearance. He noticed the elderly man approaching and immediately rolled his eyes at his coworkers. Great. Another old-timer who probably doesn't even know how to turn on a computer, Derek muttered loud enough for nearby customers to hear. His colleague Sarah shot him a warning look, but Derek was already committed to his performance. Harold approached the counter with quiet dignity, placing a printed product page on the glass surface. "Excuse me, young man. I'd like to purchase this tablet for my granddaughter. It's the model number right here." Harold's voice carried the respectful tone of someone accustomed to proper communication, pointing to the circled item on his research notes. Derek glanced at the paper dismissively, then looked Harold up and down with obvious disdain. His eyes lingered on the medals with a smirk that made several nearby customers uncomfortable. "Yeah, well, that particular model is pretty expensive, Pops. You sure you can afford it? These things aren't exactly Social Security budget-friendly." Harold maintained his composure, though his jaw tightened slightly. "I have the money, son. Cash." He opened his wallet, revealing neatly folded bills that represented months of careful budgeting and sacrifice. Derek's smirk widened as he noticed the medals again. "Nice costume jewelry there, old man. Let me guess, you picked those up at some flea market? Trying to get a veteran's discount with fake medals?" His voice carried across the electronics section, drawing stares from other customers. A mother shopping with her teenage son looked horrified at Derek's behavior, while an elderly couple near the phone cases stopped their browsing entirely. "These medals are real, son. I earned every one of them." Harold's voice remained steady, but those who knew veterans recognized the steel beneath the calm surface. His fingers unconsciously moved to touch the Purple Heart, remembering the moment 53 years ago when he'd thrown himself on a grenade to save his squad, absorbing shrapnel that would plague him for the rest of his life. Derek laughed loudly enough to attract more attention. "Sure you did, Grandpa. And I bet you've got some great war stories too, right? Let me guess, you single-handedly won Vietnam." Several customers now watched the exchange with growing discomfort. A young father pulled his son closer, whispering that they should go look at games in another section. "I never claimed to win anything," Harold replied quietly. "I just did my job and came home when most of my friends didn't." The weight of those words hung in the air, but Derek was too caught up in his performance to notice the shift in atmosphere around them. "Right. Well, your job right now is to decide if you actually want to buy something or if you're just here to show off your costume party prizes. Because I've got real customers to help." Derek turned to his computer screen dismissively, making it clear he considered the conversation over. "Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Your comment helps our community grow stronger." "Thanks, and let's get back to the story." What Derek didn't know was that Harold Martinez wasn't just any Vietnam veteran. In 1971, Sergeant Martinez had single-handedly held off an entire North Vietnamese platoon for 6 hours while calling in air support that saved 2 companies of American soldiers. His actions that day had earned him the Medal of Honor, though he rarely spoke of it and never wore it casually. The Purple Heart on his jacket represented wounds from 3 separate engagements, while his Bronze Star came from leading successful rescue missions behind enemy lines. More importantly, Derek had no idea that Harold's son-in-law was Colonel James Peterson, currently serving as a Pentagon liaison for Veteran Affairs. At that very moment, Colonel Peterson was reviewing security footage from various locations as part of a new initiative to identify and address veteran discrimination in civilian establishments. The program had been implemented after several high-profile cases of veteran mistreatment had made national news. 200 miles away in Washington, D.C., Colonel Peterson sat at his desk reviewing flagged incidents when his secure phone rang. Colonel Peterson, this is Lieutenant Morrison from the Pentagon's Veteran Protection Initiative. We've got a situation developing in real time at a Techworld Electronics in suburban Maryland. The subject appears to be an elderly veteran being harassed by store personnel. Peterson looked up from his paperwork, immediately focused. The Veteran Protection Initiative had been his brainchild, a rapid response system designed to identify and address veteran discrimination before it escalated. Send me the feed, Lieutenant. The live security footage appeared on Peterson's monitor, showing an elderly veteran with visible medals being confronted by a young store employee. Peterson's blood pressure spiked as he watched the exchange, but it went through the roof when he recognized the veteran. Dear God, that's Harold Martinez. Morrison, you need to understand something. That man is Medal of Honor recipient Staff Sergeant Harold Martinez. He saved over 400 American lives in Vietnam. Lieutenant Morrison's voice became urgent. Sir, should I contact local authorities? Negative. I'm handling this personally. Get me General Richardson's office immediately and contact Techworld's corporate headquarters. Tell them they have a Pentagon-level situation developing in their Maryland location. Peterson was already reaching for his service cap and keys. And Morrison? Start recording everything. This is about to become a teachable moment. Back at the store, Derek's harassment had escalated. You know what, old-timer? I don't think you're actually here to buy anything. I think you're just another one of those stolen valor cases we see all the time. Probably homeless too, from the looks of that jacket. The comment drew gasps from nearby customers, and Sarah finally stepped forward. Derek, that's enough. Sir, I apologize for my colleague's behavior. Let me help you with your purchase. But Derek wasn't finished with his performance. Sarah, don't enable this. Look at him. You really think this guy is some kind of war hero? He probably picked up those medals at a pawn shop. Derek's voice carried throughout the electronics section now, and several customers had stopped shopping entirely to watch the confrontation. A teenage employee named Marcus pulled out his phone and began recording, sensing that something significant was happening. Harold stood perfectly still, his decades of military discipline keeping him composed despite the growing humiliation. Son, I'm not asking for special treatment. I just want to buy my granddaughter a birthday present. His voice carried a quiet authority that made several nearby customers step closer, instinctively recognizing something Derek was too ignorant to see. Granddaughter, right? Let me guess, she doesn't actually exist either? Just another prop in your little fantasy. Derek's cruelty had reached a new level, and the store's atmosphere had become genuinely uncomfortable. Other employees were starting to gather, sensing trouble, while customers began pulling out phones to record what was clearly becoming an incident. At Techworld's corporate headquarters, CEO Margaret Chun received a call that made her immediately cancel her afternoon meetings. Ms. Chun, this is General Richardson's office at the Pentagon. We have a situation at your Maryland location involving the harassment of a Medal of Honor recipient. The Pentagon is treating this as a high-priority veteran discrimination case. Chen's assistant had never seen her boss move so quickly. Within minutes, she was in her car with her head of human resources, racing toward the Maryland store while frantically calling the location. Get me the store manager immediately. This is Margaret Chun, and we have a crisis situation developing. Store manager Tom Williams had been in his office reviewing weekly sales reports when his phone rang. The conversation lasted less than 30 seconds, but it changed everything. Williams burst from his office and ran toward the electronics section, where he could see a crowd gathering around the customer service counter. Meanwhile, Colonel Peterson's black sedan was cutting through D.C. traffic with military precision. His phone rang constantly as word spread through Pentagon circles about the situation. Colonel, this is General Richardson. I've reviewed the footage. That young man has no idea what he's dealing with. Harold Martinez is a living legend. Sir, I'm en route to handle this personally. My daughter is married to Staff Sergeant Martinez's grandson. This isn't just professional for me. Peterson's voice carried the cold fury of a career military officer watching a hero being disrespected. Back at Techworld, Derek had attracted a significant crowd with his performance. You want to know what I think? I think you're one of those guys who makes up stories about military service to get sympathy. It's pathetic, really. A grown man walking around with fake medals, pretending to be something he's not. Harold's composure finally showed its first crack. Not anger, but profound sadness that this young man had no understanding of sacrifice, service, or respect. Son, I hope you never have to find out what these medals really cost. The words carried such weight that even Derek paused momentarily. But his arrogance quickly reasserted itself. Oh, spare me the drama, old man. The only thing those medals cost was whatever you paid for them at the Army surplus store. That's when Marcus, the teenage employee who had been recording, recognized something in Harold's bearing. His grandfather had been a Vietnam veteran, and Marcus had learned to recognize the quiet strength that came from real combat experience. Dude, Derek, I think you should stop, he whispered urgently. Stop what? Calling out stolen valor when I see it? This guy is a fraud, and everyone here knows it. Derek's voice carried across the entire electronics section now, and the crowd of onlookers had grown to include most of the store's customers and employees. Store manager Williams finally reached the scene, pushing through the crowd with growing panic. He could see phones recording from multiple angles and knew that whatever was happening had already gone far beyond normal customer service issues. What's going on here? Derek, still confident in his position, gestured toward Harold dismissively. Just dealing with another stolen valor case, Tom. This guy's walking around with fake military medals trying to scam us for a discount. Williams looked at Harold's medals and felt his stomach drop. His own father had been a Vietnam veteran, and he recognized the genuine article when he saw it. Derek, step away from the counter immediately. But before Derek could respond, Margaret Chin burst through the store's entrance with her head of HR, both of them moving with the urgency of people trying to prevent a corporate disaster. Where is he? Where's the veteran? Chin's voice carried across the store as she spotted the crowd near customer service. She pushed through the gathered customers, her corporate training kicking in as she assessed the situation. The moment she saw Harold standing with quiet dignity despite obvious humiliation, she knew they were facing a crisis that could destroy the company's reputation. But Derek, still oblivious to the gravity of the situation, decided to double down. Ma'am, if you're here about this guy, he's been harassing our staff with his fake veteran routine. I was just explaining to him that we don't fall for stolen valor scams. Chin's face went white as she realized the full scope of what had happened. Derek Lawson, you are terminated immediately. Security will escort you from the premises. She turned to Harold with genuine horror. Sir, I am Margaret Chin, CEO of TechWorld Electronics. On behalf of my company, I offer you our most profound apologies. Derek's confidence finally cracked. Wait, what? You can't fire me for doing my job. This guy is obviously a fake. That's when Colonel Peterson's sedan pulled into the parking lot, followed immediately by 2 additional military vehicles. The Pentagon's rapid response to veteran discrimination cases had reached TechWorld Electronics, and Derek was about to learn exactly how wrong he had been. Peterson entered the store in full military dress uniform, his decorations immediately marking him as a high-ranking officer. Behind him came Lieutenant Morrison and 2 other Pentagon officials, all moving with the purposeful stride of military professionals on official business. The crowd in the electronics section parted automatically as they approached. Derek looked at the approaching officers with growing confusion, while Harold's posture subtly straightened as he recognized the bearing of fellow military personnel. Peterson stopped directly in front of Harold and rendered a sharp military salute. Staff Sergeant Martinez, Colonel James Peterson, Pentagon Veteran Affairs. Sir, it is an honor to meet you. Peterson's voice carried across the now silent store, and every phone in the crowd was recording as the full weight of Derek's mistake became clear. Harold returned the salute with the precision of a lifetime soldier, despite his age and injuries. Colonel Peterson, what brings the Pentagon to TechWorld Electronics? Sir, we received reports of veteran discrimination at this location. What we discovered was the harassment of a Medal of Honor recipient. Peterson's words hit the crowd like a physical force. Several customers gasped audibly, while store employees looked at Derek with a mixture of horror and disbelief. Derek's face had gone completely pale as the reality of his situation finally penetrated. Medal of Honor? But he's just some old guy with fake medals. Peterson turned to face Derek with the cold fury of a career officer. Young man, Staff Sergeant Harold Martinez threw himself on a live grenade to save his squad in 1971. He held off an entire enemy platoon for 6 hours while calling in air support that saved 400 American lives. The Purple Heart you mocked represents wounds he sustained defending your freedom. The Bronze Star came from multiple rescue missions behind enemy lines. The store had become completely silent except for the sound of phones recording what had become a historic moment of accountability. Derek stood frozen as the full scope of his ignorance crashed down on him. Lieutenant Morrison stepped forward with an official Pentagon folder. Staff Sergeant Martinez's service record includes the Medal of Honor, 3 Purple Hearts, 2 Bronze Stars, and the Vietnam Service Medal. He is one of the most decorated veterans of the Vietnam War. Chun, realizing that her company's reputation hung in the balance, addressed the crowd that had gathered. TechWorld Electronics does not tolerate discrimination against any customer, especially not against the heroes who served our country. Derek Lawson's employment with this company is terminated immediately, and we will be implementing comprehensive veteran sensitivity training for all employees. But Peterson wasn't finished. Ms. Chun, the Pentagon takes veteran discrimination extremely seriously. We'll be conducting a full review of your company's policies and training procedures. This incident will also be reported to veteran advocacy organizations nationwide. Harold, who had maintained his dignity throughout the entire ordeal, finally spoke. Colonel, I appreciate your response, but I just wanted to buy my granddaughter a birthday present. She's turning 8 next week, and she's been asking for a tablet to do her homework. Peterson's expression softened as he looked at the elderly hero who had endured harassment with such grace. Staff Sergeant, it would be my honor to ensure your granddaughter receives the finest tablet available, with the compliments of a grateful nation. Chun immediately stepped forward. Mr. Martinez, please allow TechWorld to provide your granddaughter's gift at no charge, along with any accessories she might need. It's the least we can do to begin making amends for this inexcusable treatment. Derek, still standing in shocked silence, finally found his voice. I didn't know. I mean, how was I supposed to know? Peterson turned back to Derek with steel in his voice. Son, you were supposed to know because every American should recognize and respect military service. You were supposed to know because treating elderly customers with dignity should be basic human decency. You were supposed to know because those medals represent sacrifice you clearly cannot comprehend. The crowd of customers and employees had grown to include nearly everyone in the store, and the footage being recorded would soon spread across social media platforms worldwide. Harold's quiet dignity, in the face of harassment, followed by the overwhelming response from military and corporate leadership, created a powerful narrative about respect, service, and accountability. Marcus, the teenage employee who had tried to warn Derek, approached Harold hesitantly. Sir, my grandfather served in Vietnam too. He taught me to recognize real veterans by how they carry themselves. I'm sorry this happened to you. Harold smiled at the young man, the first genuine smile he'd shown since entering the store. Your grandfather taught you well, son. Real veterans don't need to prove anything to anyone. We just want to live our lives with the same dignity we tried to preserve for others. As the situation concluded, Harold finally purchased his granddaughter's tablet with the respectful assistance of Sarah, who had tried to intervene earlier. The Pentagon officials ensured that TechWorld implemented immediate policy changes, while Derek faced not only termination but potential legal consequences for discriminatory harassment. The footage of Colonel Peterson's intervention and Harold's dignified response would become a viral sensation, viewed millions of times as an example of how true heroes conduct themselves and how a grateful nation should respond when they are disrespected. For Harold Martinez, it was simply another day when his service to country was recognized, though he remained more focused on his granddaughter's upcoming birthday than on the national attention his story would receive. The lesson was clear. True heroes walk among us quietly, asking for nothing more than basic human respect. When that respect is denied, America's military brotherhood stands ready to remind everyone why such service deserves our highest honor.